And we're following a developing story tonight. The director of the Louisville jail says he has now asked for a federal civil rights investigation after the deaths of 3 inmates in a week. The deaths not only got the attention of the ACLU this week, but this afternoon, Metro Council's Public Safety Committee discussed it in depth. The deaths happened last week between November 29th and December 4th, but we just learned the first inmate's preliminary diagnosis was heart disease. Now, Heather Fontaine is joining me live right now with what we know about that request for a civil rights investigation and what it involves specifically. Heather?
Well, we asked Director Dwayne Clark for more details about that civil rights investigation. He couldn't even tell us which one of the 3 cases this civil rights investigation was being directed towards.
Basically, it'll be done by the FBI, and that's pretty much all I can say on that.
Response service.
Before that, there was certainly tension inside the council chambers. LMDC says there have been 4 deaths this year inside the jail, but when Director Clark was asked how many by the committee, he said he didn't know.
My intent coming through the door was not to beat you up, but to get questions to tough answers, but I got to level with you. You make that kind of hard for me when you start out with not knowing how many people lost their lives in your custody over the course of a year.
And you were asked how many this year, you didn't know the answer. Councilman Fox kind of called you out for that, saying he was disappointed that you didn't know. What's your response when you hear that kind of criticism?
Well, I'm not here to sling mud. Here was my thing on that. I'm reasonably sure there's only 4, but I want to give the correct answer. I don't want to give an about number.
Jail FOP President Daniel Johnson believes the series of deaths are due to a lack of staffing at Metro Corrections. In the 2 cases where the inmates were found unresponsive, LMDC says there were 7 officers working the floor and 1 sergeant. On the night of the inmate suicide, we're told there were just 5 officers and 1 sergeant spread out and monitoring inmates.
It is impossible to closely monitor 200 people with only 2 people on the floor. One of those people already worked 8 hours and well into another 8-hour shift, pushing them closer to the 16 hours.
LMDC says Stephanie Dunbar, the 48-year-old who died Saturday, was in 2 fights before being put in the holding cell where she took her own life. Director Clark says even increased staffing would not necessarily prevent assaults within the jail, but the FOP strongly disagrees. Now, official causes of death are still pending for the 2 inmates who were found unresponsive. LMPD and LMDC are investigating those cases, as well as the 3rd one, the suicide. It's also important to note that this afternoon, the city and Metro Corrections Union have agreed on a new tentative contract that would mean a pay raise for correction officers. We have details to that tentative contract on our website, WHAS11.com. Reporting live in Louisville, I'm Heather Fontaine, WHAS 11 on your side.